If you have ever felt that your art feels flat and maybe lack a sense of space, it might be because you haven't really understood perspective. Most artists fear this seemingly complex area and thus avoiding it. In this video I will give you 3 reasons to why you should study this second art fundamental, perspective. I would like to compare the study of this subject to another art that lies close to my heart, namely the art of music. I have been playing the violin for the last 9 years and I have learned some really valuable lessons which I'm now able to apply to this subject. Lesson number 1 is more knowledge equals more freedom. To study perspective could be compared to study scales in music. When you study scales you feel like they are no use, they are tedious, they are boring, and you can't really see the use of them. The same goes for study perspective. It is boring and it is really, you can't see how this will help you perform that free and loose art that you're dreaming of. In hindsight, it is obvious that these scales help to build my foundation in my understanding of music, and thus allowed me to play more freely. So I applied this knowledge to my study of perspective, and I realized that with the knowledge of perspective in my backpack, I was now able to perform my art more freely. So due to my rigid training and with my gained knowledge, I was now able to draw freely without having to think about this perspective rules and guess my way. A lot of you have heard of the famous art teacher Andrew Loomis. He once said, "The difficulties of not knowing is always much greater than the effort of learning." So the second lesson I have learned from my music is that to build strong, you need scaffolding. When I first started playing the violin, I had these marks on my grip board to help me put my fingers in the correct place to get a clear tone. This was great, but it felt clumsy, it looked ugly, and I just felt like a complete beginner, which I was, but that's another story. However, when my teacher finally removed these marks, I found out that I could play more freely, relying on my intuition and the knowledge which I had gained by having these marks there. The same principle goes for perspective. It sometimes feels like a stiff and rigid subject, but if you think about it, even the most graceful of bridges need a stiff scaffolding. So the third lesson I have learned from my years playing the violin is that you will need some guidance. It'll be obvious to some of you, but I would just like to stress it. During my 9 years playing the violin, I've always had a violin teacher, and they have always taught me such valuable lessons, and without them I wouldn't even know which side was which on this violin. A lot of you are studying from home and learning from the internet, which is great. However, some areas in art is very complex and you might need a guiding hand. A practical tip here. I would recommend buying Perspective Made Easy by Ernest R. Norling. This is a tremendous book and it has helped me hugely with my perspective understanding. Do yourself a favor and invest in this book and allow yourself to be a student. So as you have realized, my focus in this video was to stress the importance of perspective and not to teach the technical aspects. However, I would love to do it if you would want to see that from me, so please comment below if you would like to see a more technical video from me when I talk about vanishing point, eye level and everything else you can think about when it comes to perspective. Just to summarize, lesson number 1. Understand that more knowledge equals more freedom. Lesson number 2. The theory of perspective might seem stiff and rigid, however, keep in mind that even the most graceful of bridges need a strong scaffolding. Lesson number 3, the last one, is allow yourself to be a student and get a guiding hand. So that was all from me and Fred at Alibri. thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.